Good morning, and hopefully you can hear me along with the lighting seems to always be a little screwy down here, but finally I've got a calm day. I do have a slight headwind, so it'll probably affect the flight of this arrow somewhat. Before I start, and apologize if I'm screaming, it's just that I don't know about the wave noise. I'm gonna tell you a story. Stories are important because you can get a lot out of the simplest story, and if the story itself doesn't have actually the implications of what you get out of it, that's okay. It's part of being a person, it's part of thinking. Anyway, there was a cat named Jason. Jason had his all sets of claws. He was not a declawed cat. And so Jason was out in the yard one day, just doing cat things, you know, whatever. And suddenly this big dog came charging from another yard at Jason with malice in his heart. Well, of course, Jason knew, wheeled around, and as soon as that dog got close enough, and that dog thought he was going to get Jason, an easy target, because he was a big dog and Jason was a relatively small cat, Jason wheeled around and sliced that dog's face. Dog's face was bloody. Dog took off and Jason just up a tree and stayed there for an hour before he relaxed and everything was good and then came back down. And so I am not going to relay my thoughts on this story. I'm going to allow you to figure it out on your own and gather pearls of wisdom from the epic tales of Jason the cat. And it is a true story. Not my cat. Not my cat. Anyway, I'm down here at the beach, Little Traverse Bay. Beautiful day. Not open yet, so I can get away with this. I don't want to get spoken to again for using a bow and arrow. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to flight shoot this original white cedar bow that has a thin layer of sinew back, give you some idea. Before I get into more detail, I'm going to show you this one. And I have been playing with this one. A white cedar and sinew-backed bow is exactly walking a razor's edge. And I'm going to approach this one the same way I did this one. Early in the career of this bow's life, and I corrected this situation, so do not be afraid. It's just a matter of course with white cedar bows. As I was shooting it, I was playing with it, drawing it, horsing it around, and I noticed just the slightest wrinkles, the slightest of creisel, not to the point of damaging it, but to let me know, hey John, we have a situation to correct. And so I challenge you to find out how this relates to the Jason story. And so I wound up, because the creiseling was like in this inner part, before middle limb, between middle limb and handle, I wound up changing the tiller so I'm getting more of a distributed bend, getting more bend, and as I mentioned before, like the native bows, it may have been considered a little whippy, which means more bend is taking place out. I corrected that. I also gave myself more of a draw length by spreading it out. I shall set these two appliances down and talk about this one. Same deal. And you notice it still has reflex. It's still a good bow. But after working with it, shooting it yesterday, drawing it, I'm noticing the slightest twinge of wrinkling, and it's entirely possible both with that bow and this bow. It's the finish, because I'm sorry I was impatient. I used Helmsman Spar urethane on this bow instead of mulming it. I could say that what my intention was to give a true idea of white cedar bows, you know, to see if this is a viable thing, and mulming might like give me false readings, but I was impatient. I'm not gonna like try to buffalo you that. So it's entirely possible that the slight wrinkles I'm seeing on here are just from that soft finishing buckling and not the cedar. But moving right along, they took place symmetrical between my thumbs, all just right here. And so what does that tell me? Not to throw the bow away, because I'm seeing it. It is not a damaged bow. Zero string follow. It still has potential. So instead of shelving it and turning it into a display bow, I am going to use the pearls of wisdom from the slight wrinkling, which may or may not be just a finish. It could be on the very surface of the bow. I am going to thin it, beyond the chrysaling. Test it again and see. I'm going to chase my wrinkles down the limb until it is distributed, and I suspect that after I thin it out here, I'm not going to see any more chrysaling. And again, white cedar bows walking a razor's edge. I am pushing exactly the limits of this bow, and so I am going to continue working with it patiently because this is tricky. Okay, so moving right along. White cedar bow, about 40 pounds. And this is my rack, and I measured, I've got a 100-yard mark down there. The amount of energy it takes to puncture both deer lungs, deer-sized animal, with a very sharp two-blade broadhead. In my estimation, I do not suggest treating it like fishing with ultralight, fishing gear. Don't approach hunting a deer-sized animal with the minimum unless you have to, because we owe it to the animals clean kills, clean as fast as possible kills. So it's not an area of experimentation in my view. Killing a deer is not the place for experimenting. But in my experience, a bow that can shoot, that can power an arrow 100 yards, a hunting weight arrow 100 yards, contains enough energy to at 15 to 20 yards take a deer down. Now you might say 100 yards isn't that much, but consider this. It's not just zooming through a non-gravitational, non-atmospheric environment and then just dropping. When it hits the ground at this 100 yards, it still has kinetic energy. It's going up and it's coming down. So it's not zero kinetic energy. So at that 100 yards, it's still moving hard enough to hurt something. But let's see. Looking good. Let's see if I can do 100 yards. I don't know. This is going to be a one-take deal because I'm almost out of battery power. So let's see. And I have to say, in all fairness to the bow, that arrow has big fletching, and the fletching is bad, so as it was flying, it was spiraling, so it was wasting any more energy. So let me place my bow down here. Make sure the camera's on. Yep. And I shall point the camera at the lake while I'm moving down here. I also have another story that's related. I might as well yap about this. Got some time as I'm walking. So I had a 140-pound Malamute. He was a killer. He could break his chain whenever he wanted. You know, he was a powerful animal. And he was used to killing possums and such. You know, he'd break his chain at night and go out hunting. Well, this dog decided that it would be a good idea to go after a raccoon, so he cornered a raccoon, the inside corner of a house. And you know, that dog had that scar from that raccoon on his nose his entire life. The raccoon was fine. Okay, sports fans, be prepared to turn. Okay, so there is, you see that cairn, that stack of rocks? That's 100 yards, so I'm going to get even with it. My paces are actually pretty accurate. So that's 100 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's my arrow. It was able to go 111 yards in a, I would estimate a 5 mile an hour or so headwind. Let's point it back to the lake because it's pretty. With big fletchings that are kind of messed up because the thing was fishtailing and it has a steel point. So 110 yards with a white cedar bow with a big dumb arrow is pretty good. The white cedar bow, if this was a 2-blade Muzzy or a Zwickey Eskimo, or even a really nice stone point, that is a deer hunting bow right there. White cedar. thank you for watching. If you have any, say, I guess, ideas about what the Jason the Cat story might mean to you, feel free to comment. And the last little bit is, I wound up putting my turpentine videos on private because it's like I didn't want to be known for that, but you know, I think that was somewhat cowardly on my part, so I put them back up. It is what it is. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for watching.